anxious to step through the gate again, Major?
Yes, I am.
We all are.
Would you like us to bring back anything special?
No thanks.
Groceries, new outfit, flatware?
No, just yourselves in one piece, please. Dial it up. Be safe.
Welcome to the Jumping Puddles podcast. Be sure to listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and or YouTube. And follow us at Jumping Puddles Podcast on Tumblr and Instagram. And Jumping Pud Pod on Twitter. Hi, I'm American Sam. And with me are my fellow co-hosts, Tor Ash. And our very first special guest star, Lesbians for Daniel Jackson, a.k.a. Ty.
Hi. So great to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me for my favorite topic ever. Daniel Jackson.
Woo!
Yeah, so hi everyone. So I'm Ty. My pronouns are they, them. I'm known as Daniel Jackson's #1 lesbian fan. That's like my entire brand on Twitter. I'm obsessed with him. He is my favorite man, but not my favorite archaeologist. I have some tea about this. So we're going to get into that. Yeah, I got into SG1 actually because my brother was like, hey, do you want to watch this sci-fi show that has like an anthropologist character? And I was like, oh yeah, sure, sounds fun. And then we, watched the movie and then watched the show. And I was like, holy shit, I love Daniel. I don't love his practices, but I love him as a character. So
amazing. We're so glad to have you here on the podcast as our Daniel Jackson expert. Yeah, you're an anthropologist too, so you will be able to lecture us and give us the real tea on what he does wrong and what he does right, maybe. Because maybe they got one thing right. I'm hoping. Okay, so this is going to be a different episode, a type of structure for our usual listeners. We're just going to kind of jump right in and just mention different episodes and different seasons. So hopefully we don't lose anyone here, but we'll try to be good about remembering the episode and the season. So guys, what do we think about Daniel? That's a loaded question.
Yeah, it really is. Like I said, I love Daniel. I think he's like a really interesting character for like a variety of reasons. I guess I don't really know where to start exactly, but because so much happens to him over the course of not just the 10 seasons of SG1, but then also sort of his, appearances in Atlantis and Universe. Where I think like his role in those two shows are very much like he's just like the resident like ancient expert, or at least like linguist, which I think is a very different role than sort of like the beginning of SG1, where he's essentially like an ancient aliens guy. And in the movie he's very rightfully mocked by the anthropological academic society for being like, aliens were involved in the pyramids. Like, no. That's like some of my beef with SG1 is the whole ancient aliens aspect of it. But, whatever. It was made in the 90s, so.
Oh my god. That is so true, though. The one thing, a biggest pet peeve of mine as well, is his whole, thing in the movie where aliens made the pyramids, because to this day people come to me and be like, aliens made the pyramids, and I'm like crying, I'm like through my tears, I'm like, no, please, they had ramps, it's proven, and they're like, no they didn't, and I'm like,
yeah, ancient people were in fact very smart and very capable, so let's not discredit them first off.
Exactly.
Daniel, love him. I don't hate him, but it's like I wish they had done the anthropology a little bit differently, but I think that if they had done the anthropology differently, then Daniel would not have been able to be on the show, because it being like a military sci-fi, you have to have like an anthropology that is sort of in line with like the military's goals, which are sort of like inherently problematic, to say the very least. And so you can't really have, you know, a very like decolonial, anti-imperialist, you know, anthropology, which sometimes he does sort of, I think, go in that direction a little bit. But it's not as much as I would have liked. And definitely he doesn't use sort of like the language of like anthropology today. I can't really speak to like the state of anthropology in like the 90s and 2000s because I was like a baby. So, but today it's definitely, I think a lot of anthropologists would consider Daniel Jackson to be a bad anthropologist.
You know, that's super interesting because there are some episodes where I'm like, ooh, Daniel as the resident anthropologist is saying something like that. Now, you guys gotta help me out because I can't remember exactly the name of this episode. But do you guys remember the people who were painted in white? That one planet.
Oh, yeah.
And they needed like the sound to live.
One false step? Something?
Yes.
Yeah,
That's exactly
season two.
So he says something like, I have a easier time communicating with dogs than the people of the planet, which was like, oh, Daniel, you can't say things like that. Like, what is your profession?
Yeah.
So part of me is like writer's fault, right away. Trying to be funny and it's not. But yeah, so I totally see your point of him being kind of not the best.
Yeah, I think, part of me is like, I love Daniel Jackson, and I kind of like try to forget the dumb stuff, like bad stuff that he says. And like, I was rewatching some episodes of SG1 to like get back into it, and I was like, damn, I forgot how military centered this is. Like, I just like blocked that out of my memory completely. Yeah, I mean, it's like, you know, I still enjoy the show and everything. It's just, if you're looking for like a good representation of anthropology, you're not going to get it there.
Also, I think the writers didn't always know the difference between archaeology and paleontology.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This time I forgot the episode name. It's one of the episodes with Shaka, I think, probably the first one, and they have like these digging sites, and it's an archaeological digging site, and it's like no. I feel like Stargate, especially SG1, doesn't do a good job in representing different fields. Also, their medical stuff is horrible. I don't know if that's just the 90s or if just the writers didn't know better. But it's I don't know a lot about anthropology and stuff, so I usually don't notice a lot of the stuff, which is, I think, might be ignorant, but also sometimes to my benefit because I could just enjoy the show. But and same with medical stuff. I was watching it with someone who's a nurse, and each time Janet wasn't scream basically was no, that's wrong, no. So yeah.
I have like a lot of thoughts about this, and I'm trying to figure out like how to like say them in a, you know, coherent way. Yeah, it has a lot to do with I don't remember if he like explicitly calls the Unas primitive, but it is sort of hinted at multiple times, and I think also I think it was Thor's Chariot or something, or like maybe not Thor's Chariot, where we like meet the Unas for the first time and we learn that they had been sort of hosts to the Gould prior to humans, and so they're sort of placed on this like evolutionary ladder, like at a lower rung than humans. And then when we like look at, you know, they're kind of, oh, they're living in caves, which is not a thing that humans actually ever did. That is a false conception that people have about prehistory. And so there's just like a lot of things where Daniel, he like tries to see value in like so-called like primitive cultures, which is like to an extent kind of what anthropologists do, but like you would never really label it that way. If I can like name drop an anthropologist, there's this really famous anthropologist named Lila Abu-Lughod who wrote in 1991 this really interesting article called Writing Against Culture. And it's like the points, again, this is like 1991, where she's criticizing the, you know, this sort of self-other paradigm, which kind of inherently exists within Stargate, not just within SG-1, but sort of within all of the shows. I'm thinking especially with like the Wraith, who are, I think the Wraith are done so dirty. This is like a tangent away from Daniel, but the Wraith are done so dirty. I feel so bad for them.
Yeah, no, we've had extensive talks about how like they are not given like we know nothing about like their civilization really, just at like the bare minimum that like the ancients like accidentally created them. Like, and like, you know, we joke all the time, oh, war criminals, but like, oh my God, what the expedition did to them is like horrendous. Like, you know, like every like Stargate show has like its own problem. I feel like SG-1 has a lot of like military imperialism, like all that stuff in there. But Atlantis is another can of worms entirely, because it's just, oh my God, they completely othered that culture, and they just deluded themselves. They are full on delusional that they were like, yeah, like we're helping them, like the whole Michael situation.
Oh my God.
It's so bad. Oh shit.
Yeah. That was really horrific.
Like, arguably, they did worse things to the Wraith than the Wraith did to them. Like, sure, the Wraith were eating them, quote unquote, but the Wraith didn't kidnap them and then try to genetically re-engineer them to become Wraith, or anything like that. So, yeah, just a mess.
Yeah, and like the Wraith, it's like they're eating humans or like sucking their souls out, whatever, because like that's the only thing they can do, really. You know, it's sort of like they're villains a little bit inherently because of their biology, a little bit, you know. It's not their fault.
Exactly.
It's the ancients, like everything.
Yeah, exactly. Another ancient hater. Woohoo!
Yeah.
See, I knew you were gonna fit in, because literally, I think it was last recording, which I think like 2-3 weeks ago, Ash asked us this question, which was like, who do you think is worth like the Wraith worshippers or the ancient worshippers? And we just went down a rabbit hole. Like 30 minutes, we're like debating like what's worse, and like it was wild. It was so funny.
Yeah. And I mean, I have things to say about the ancients. I feel like I'm talking more about like anthropology as a whole and not so much Daniel Jackson. Sorry about that.
All good.
No, it's interesting. I like it.
Yeah, no, it's literally perfect.
Yeah, just the ancients, I feel like they, again, thinking about this like evolutionary ladder, which is like a very bad way of thinking about evolution, either like biological or like cultural. But it's like a very common way that we think of evolution, I think. Yeah, so hold on. I had like written this part in one of my papers that I'm just gonna like read verbatim. So yeah, I wrote about SG-1 and yeah. So Stargate SG-1 explicitly represents this in the episode The Fifth Race, in which Colonel O'Neill is able to access an ancient repository of knowledge. The ancients are the most highly advanced humanoid species in the Milky Way and have been able to achieve ascension, which is a spiritual state of enlightenment. The show represents ascension as the ultimate goal of evolution, which seemingly only humans would be able to achieve due to their evolutionary and cultural superiority over the other species in the Milky Way. by placing SG-1, a proxy of Western civilization, at the top of the societal hierarchy. The show justifies its portrayals of aliens and extraterrestrial humans as a primitive other needing the guiding hand of the US military. So, essentially, yeah, they worship the ancients because they want access to their knowledge, they want access to their technology, all for the goal of, like, bettering the military. You know, when the military, like, they have access to, you know, making ships, the command chair, all of those things. Those are all for, like, defense military goals. They're not for, like, humanitarian goals. Like, that's, like, an offshoot. And so that's why they, like, worship the ancients so much, is just because they want access to their technology. They don't care about anything else. So...
No, drag them. It's true.
A mic drop. That's a mic drop. Wow. You said that so well. You were literally articulating the song. I'm in awe.
I mean, I was reading off of a paper, so, you know, this is me when I'm writing stuff, which is generally much more articulate than me just, like, spitting words out at people. But yeah, and then coming back to Daniel, but especially Daniel and the ancients. So he has a very close connection to the ancients, right? He ascends. He's the first one to ascend, I think, in the team. And he is, like, the key that the US military, like, uses to access ancient knowledge and everything, because Daniel, being a former ancient, and then becoming sort of like an ancient expert and being able to, like, read the language easily and sort of, you know, knowing all of the, I guess, like, human mythology that exists around the ancients, like the, like, Merlin, Arthur, all of those things. He's really, like, the way that the military is able to access the ancients. So it's, again, we see this, like, very close collaboration of anthropology and the military, and having sort of, like, the military using anthropology to, you know, get tactical advantages and stuff, and technological advantages, and anthropology kind of going, yeah, okay, whatever, I don't, you know, really care, you can use me for bad stuff, as long as I get to study what I'm studying, which is unfortunately something that has existed in anthropology, like, since its inception, is sort of being used by bad actors for terrible things, but kind of, like, turning, like, looking the other way because, oh, well, we still have access to, you know, money and labs and everything we need to do our work, which is, again, something that I have, like, a major issue with Stargate. Yeah,
I mean... No,
I love Daniel Jackson.
Surprise, bitches! Everyone's getting an in-depth course on anthropology.
Yeah, sorry. This is actually I'm using your podcast to spread the word of anthropology.
No, please. No, there's just there's 10 different conversations that we can branch off into with everything you just said, for real.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you guys, this is your podcast. You guys totally can choose where we're going. I will have something to say.
No, you guys go ahead. I'm fine with whatever direction we take it in. There's just a million different things that we could say, truly.
Oh man, I don't even know what I want to ask first. Okay, so I'm thinking, how do you feel about the public perception of Daniel as a sort of, I don't want to say paragon of virtue on the team, but he seems to be touted as the conscience, in terms of how they treat, you know, alien civilizations that they encounter. And that surely changes as we progress through the series. But yeah, like, what do you think about that take?
So yeah, definitely. Even in episode, I think it was, I think it's called Fire and Water, like the one where he's sort of like abducted by the fish alien guy. When the rest of SG-1 thinks that he's dead, Jack says, like, oh, but Daniel, he was our voice, he was, like, our conscience, essentially, which is, like, I think very telling that, essentially the military, like, if they didn't have someone whose job was to study cultures, they would, like, not care. They would just, like, do things that are, like, immoral. Like, that's essentially admitting that Daniel is sort of this, like, kind of like dam for their actions.
Well, I was going to mention, because I know earlier, like 20 different, topics ago, you mentioned how different Daniel is, or how he appears in both Atlantis and Universe. And so I'm rewatching Universe, and he popped up at the end of season 1, and it's so strange. It's the weirdest thing, because he pops up, right? And they send him on, like, a stakeout with, like, he's following Rush, and he has, like, a camera, and he's like, I'm here, Jack. I'm just, like, the whole time, I was like, what the I was like, where? It's like, this should be Tilk, or, like, Mitchell, or, like, Sam is, like, commanding the ships. I was like, okay, obviously not. But, like, it should be Tilk or Mitchell. I was like, what the hell is Daniel doing here? I was like, y'all said Daniel
like an actual, like, military, like a soldier, someone who has actual military training, not the academic you guys kidnapped, like, 10 years ago.
Yeah, no, for real. And I feel like that was when, for me, I was like, okay. I mean, I kind of already, obviously watch this show and you're like, okay, he's definitely changed. Like, they definitely kind of lost some of him. But just watching him in Universe, I was just like, all right, y'all really, they just fully created this new character, basically, to, like, fit their needs. Because there's just no way you think of, like, season 1 or season 3, even season 5, Daniel, that you'd send this man out to be the one on the stakeout with, like, the Lucian Alliance peering in the corner. Like, he was, like, pulling out a gun, and I was like, what are you doing here?
Yeah, it's just, like, really, it's so weird how they just decided to, I don't know, it's just, like, completely shift his character and sort of, like, the purpose that he served on the team, like, just so radically. And it's like, this is, cool, I love Daniel Jackson, but this is not my Daniel Jackson. What have you done with my boy?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where I can't help but think, not only of, in terms of the story, but, like, outside influence, like, were the writers tired of writing or trying to write someone who was more culturally conscious, who didn't want to shoot first and ask questions later? Were they trying to appease the crowd of people who didn't like Daniel because he would naysay the violence as the first resort, and was sort of like the Jiminy Cricket of the group? I feel like it's compelling, his transformation into somebody who was more soldier than academic, if they had actually addressed it in the story and made it more of an explicit, like, yes, this is not a good thing that happened to him, and maybe have Daniel sort of facing that part of himself and recognizing that he has gone through that change, and not seeing it as, like, a maturing thing or a growing up thing, but something that he wants to maybe rectify and, like, find his prior peace, or however you want to say it again.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think that, part of sort of his shift is kind of comes down to so many bad things happen to him, and so he kind of, like, willingly takes up arms against, the Gould and against the Ori and stuff. And it's like, as a reaction to trauma, that's, I guess, understandable, but I wish that had been sort of, like, the in-story, like, explicit reason for it, rather than it just kind of seems like slowly he is being, like, worn down kind of by the Air Force, and kind of is like, okay, fine, this is just how we'll do things. And he kind of, like, loses that more sensitive edge to him, which I think I will say that I think that Daniel Jackson, the character experiences a lot of like kind of homophobic microaggressions throughout the seasons, and I do think that part of that is because he's like sensitive and moral and, you know, not a like guns blazing type of person. He's like I said, he's more sensitive, he's more emotional, he's sort of, you know, and all of those things are seen as like, you know, typically like feminine, whatever, you know, traits. And I think that also goes with like the fact that in the first 3 seasons, he has sort of longer hair. And then by season 4, we see him with like this military cut. And then by the end of season 10, he's definitely like more buff, and morally he's changed a lot. And there are a lot of comments throughout the show about, well, I don't know if it's like a lot of comments, but I got the, you know, every once in a while, I think it was in the episode Mobius, where it's like the alternate universe where like they were in the Stargate program. And Daniel has, you know, his long hair again. And at one point, Sam, you know, tells Jack like, oh, yeah, actually, I like Daniel. And Jack kind of reacts with, oh, really? I thought he was. And then he kind of makes like this hand gesture that's a little bit like limping his wrist. And it's like, okay, so you think that he's sort of like emasculated and, you know, kind of like feminine and like gay in his sort of like academic role. And in that episode, like, again, he has his long hair. He's sort of more emotional. We kind of see the Daniel Jackson a little bit of the first seasons, which he no longer is at that point in the show. So I do think that we see this Daniel Jackson who is sort of like forced to become more like stereotypically masculine within sort of the Air Force context. And because of that, he loses sort of his role as the sort of like moral agent of the team, which is sad.
Yeah, it is. And I noticed that too, and I tried to pay attention to it while preparing for this episode. I was kind of trying to watch like one episode per season that was potentially Daniel centered, and the difference from first season to 10th season is just, it's striking. Everything that has been said is so true. And I was trying to figure out why that is, because I felt in the end he's just frustrated all the time, and he's very snarky, which I like. I think later seasons Daniel is pretty funny. Like, I just like his sarcasm. But yeah, he's frustrated. He's the only person who's frustrated or who really sees how bad the ancients are. And yeah, I was trying to figure out how that happened. And I didn't really come to a conclusion, but in the beginning, he was trying to find his wife. That was just his whole mission. That's why he joined SG-1. He wanted to find Sheree. And then after she died, he wanted to, I think, I could be wrong, but after that he wanted to find the Halcesis, so Sheree's and Apophy's son. And after that, I feel like he was trying to figure out, or his goal was to find out what's the deal with the ancients. And then he ascended, and then he realized that the ancients are assholes. And yeah, I don't know, maybe he just kind of lost his cause, and that's why he ended up the way he did. And a little add-on to Universe, I think like Universe didn't really know how to handle Atlantis characters in general. They wanted to throw them in like little treats for previous fans, but they didn't really know how. And I think none of the characters that we knew before were portrayed in a way that we knew them before.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that he does sort of like lose his way a little bit, and I think that saying that he's frustrated is definitely like very accurate to his character. And it's just, yeah. I wish that the show had like actually dealt with that instead of sort of dragging it on until the end of the show. Yeah.
But I think what's interesting about that whole thing though is that he doesn't like get like fully frustrated until like season 9 and 10. That's when he's like, fuck it, I'm done. What's interesting is that he wouldn't do it immediately after he's come back from ascending. It's weird that I feel like season 7, 8 Daniel is like, haha, I'm fine, I don't have any trauma. And you start season 9 and it's like, I am depressed. I am angry. I have a beard, you know? Like, he is so goddamn pissed. Like, someone, like, literally pissed in his, like, cereal bowl that morning. Like, the difference is crazy. And so, obviously, like, again, writers are not good. The writers are kind of shit sometimes. So, obviously, like, there is no, probably, like, rational explanation for why he just ignored his trauma. But I like to pretend, right? I like to try to fix their messy-ass plot lines. I like to pretend that all of it just came rushing at him because season 9 is when, you know, the team officially is disbanding. And he's literally about to leave to Atlantis. So I think all of the trauma and all of everything he's gone through for the past, like, you know, 8-9 years is finally, like, caught up to him. However, I think the sucky part is that we never get to see some sort of resolution to that sort of I say arc very loosely. Because okay, well, again, we'll try to we're gonna try to rein some of our little rants in. But this will kind of go into something else. But character arcs. SG1 doesn't have many of them. We know this. Jack, bestie, there's nothing there. Sam, sorry guys, there's nothing there. Very little is done. I was gonna say Daniel is the only character with at least semi-coherent sort of arc. But maybe Teal'c is a better, because at least his has like a resolution kind of. It's not about his personality, it's about like his people. So, but I mean, at least there's a resolution there. But with Daniel, I think what really sucks is that there was no resolution. You know, we see Daniel 1.0, we see Daniel 2.0, we got to Daniel 3.0, which is like season 9 and 10. And then we just end. And I've heard people, someone told me once, they're like, oh, well, like, I'm sure it would have been fixed in season 11. And I'm like, are we sure about that, guys? Are we sure? I don't know. We like, in a beautiful world, in a utopia world, it would have been. And we would have seen Daniel return more to his Daniel 1.0. And it could have been a nice little fun thing. But because we don't get that, we get like ding, 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 ding. Don't even get a straight line. It's just all over the damn place. So yeah, that was just my thing about his arc. his roller coaster ride of an arc.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. And I also think that he has the most of a character arc, whether it's good or bad, but he has something and you can see development there. And yeah, I also thought of Teal'c and I was like, hey, this guy is really cool. And we get to see some development there too. And he's trying to find a solution for the depression of the Jaffa and everything. So
okay, should we continue, or maybe we should take a break from all of our serious talks? Why don't we start talking about ships? Let's jump into, because we were getting depressed there.
Yeah,
we were getting really sad.
Sorry about that. I just like I brought the like imperialism rant in, and then it's very hard to dig yourself back out of that.
Yeah, let's do it. Please start. Go ahead.
Okay, so this is like maybe going to be like super controversial because I know that one of the most popular like SG1 ships is Jack and Daniel. I am kind of anti that.
Ooh.
It's like, you know, obviously people can ship whatever they want, you know, blah blah blah, whatever. That disclaimer, but I think that like that ship just sort of kind of goes in the direction of like the military, you know, the representative of the military and the representative of archaeology like get together, and it's like, I don't know. I think it's also because like I have such a soft spot for Daniel, and I really don't like the military, and that ends up rubbing off on. Sometimes I don't like Jack is not my favorite character. Sometimes Carter like really gets on my nerves. And like definitely my two favorite SG-1 characters are Daniel and Teal'c, because they're kind of the ones that are like the least associated with the US military. Like Teal'c is a soldier, but he's also trying to free his people. And you know, once that's done, he's kind of ready to go like, okay, bye. It's been real, but I got to go deal with, you know, the Free Jaffa Nation now. And it's like, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I don't really ship Daniel and Jack. I understand why people do, but also I feel like Jack like antagonizes Daniel like a lot. In kind of like, again, like I was saying in like the episode Mobius, in kind of like almost like homophobic ways. And in the episode Need, when Daniel is, you know, kind of hopped up on sarcophagus, whatever, at one point, and it really stood out to me. So he comes down to the mines and he's wearing, you know, the royal robes. And Jack kind of jokingly says, "Why are you wearing a dress?" And it's like, it's just one of those things where it's like the macho military man and the sort of like more sensitive, like academic man, like are just kind of not gelling together. So that's like one of the reasons why I'm kind of not super pro that ship. I think it's also because I see myself in Daniel a little bit. Like, to me, Daniel in my mind is a lesbian, which doesn't make sense. But yeah, to me, it's like, oh, well, if he's a lesbian, he, you know, obviously, you know, Daniel and Vala, because, you know, it's got to be lesbian. Yeah, that's my main justification for not loving, like, Jack Daniel. I feel like Daniel Teal'c is, you know, could be cute, but it's like, you know, my priority is the lesbian ship. Daniel and Vala, which obviously is not a lesbian ship, but it is in my heart, so.
Oh my god.
It's like what they say
I freaking
about
love that.
Spike and Buffy being like queer rep, even though it's not really, because of what those two characters symbolize. So I totally understand what you mean.
What about Daniel Teal'c though?
That's my favorite.
Ooh.
I do think it's cute, and like Tora, if you want to go into that, I would love to hear your thoughts.
Well,
please.
Mostly I just ship Daniel and some good coffee and some sleepy nap times. But rewatching the Daniel and Teal'c dynamic is so profound and interesting to me, because their relationship could be so different than what it is, but because these two people are the way that they are such good friends. I always bring up this scene. It's like my favorite Daniel Teal'c scene. But Daniel, they're like in a meeting, and Daniel's like, "Oh, I trust Teal'c with my life." And Teal'c is like, "Thank you, Daniel Jackson." And Daniel's like, "You're welcome." Just like the cutest little the cutest little exchange. And I feel like the trust between them is so interesting. And I feel like Teal'c never is, like you were mentioning about Jack, he's never like, oh, Daniel effeminizes Daniel. Like, I don't see him ever being like, you're tiny man, or any sort of like weird macho posturing happening between those two. There's very much a relationship of respect between them. So yeah, I just think they're cute.
Yeah. And I think in many ways, Teal'c is sort of like, he's more like sensitive and in tune with his emotions than like Jack is.
Oh, 100%.
And I think that's like really, really interesting. And I love Teal'c so much as a character. I think it's like really random, but I do kind of, it's like I don't necessarily ship Jack Teal'c, but it's like there are a lot of moments in the show where it's like they're very like brothers in arms. And it's like I can get behind that dynamic, but I still like don't love Jack, which please no one at me on Twitter telling me to KMS because I said that. Like, I understand that's controversial, but sorry.
No, Ty, I'm right there with you. Everyone on the podcast knows this already. I think the viewers know this by now too, because of how much I've talked. But no, I 100%. I'm so glad you said the whole thing about Jack and Teal, because that's one of the the ship that I don't know. I don't know if I can ever get behind. Like, I see it as like a fun friendship, but like just the way, especially like in early seasons, that Jack just treats Daniel is so scary. And like especially when you consider like he's like the military leader, like he really has so much power over Daniel. And like he deadass could like leave him there on an island somewhere and just be like, yeah, Daniel got lost, and no one would be like, oh, sorry, like sad. Like they'd be like, well, shit, okay. Like, I don't know, he just has so much power over him, and like the way he treats him and like makes fun of him, like I just don't find that fun. And I think not to I'm gonna get some people angry at this one. Again, not to compare too much. This is why I think McShep and Eli Matt are superior, honestly, to Jack Daniel. Because at the very least, especially with McShep, they're on equal playing fields. They'll be mean to each other. They're evil to each other sometimes. Like, but it's like Rodney will fight back. The problem with the Jack Daniel thing is Daniel cannot fight back the same way Jack can.
Yeah. And even when like Daniel does try to fight back, like I'm thinking of that episode, I cannot remember which season it was. I think it was like it was either season 5 or season 7. It's the one where there's the ancient, I think she's the replicator.
Oh,
the replicator girl.
Reese.
And like Jack is like, we gotta kill her like right now. And like Daniel tries so hard to protect her. And then because she's scared, she's just like this little kid who's scared. And Daniel, sees that and tries to protect her. And then Jack just like kills her at the end of the episode. And it's like, are you serious? I mean, it's just like he's willing to like use violence. It's like, I understand he thought, the replicators, they're like a major threat and everything, but it's like he's not even willing to like hear Daniel out, and he just decides that he's like, oh, I'm just gonna kill this guy. This kid. So I mean, I think it's because like the girl is like kind of starting to be a potentially like a violent threat at that point, but it's like there's still, I think there's this scene where like she's lying on the floor and Daniel's like next to her, and he like looks back at Jack and kind of in this like, how could you do this? Because I asked you not to do that. And it's like, that's, I think, one of those things where their friendship almost can't work because Jack is part of like the military, hierarchy. And so there are things that he kind of like has to do, so to speak, that he like cannot break away from. And Daniel like expects him like, oh, we're friends, you can trust me on this. And Jack like can't like do that kind of.
Yeah, I love the way you said that. Like they are friends, but their circumstances kind of make it so contentious. It's such a difficult thing to maintain. I feel like that's part of what makes their dynamic interesting to me. Like, I don't hate viewing it in a romantic light in the sense of it being a sort of tragedy in a way, because I don't think they could ever see eye to eye on things. Like, they're just so fundamentally different that as much as they care about each other, like, big issues, they would not agree. And one of the really interesting Jack and Daniel episodes to me, in addition to the replicator one, is Abyss. And I can't really explain why, but it is, because I feel like their differences come to a head in that episode. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, I mean, Abyss is an episode. Abyss is a big episode for a lot of different things. But I definitely think that's one of their best, because I think you really kind of see all aspects of their relationship. Like, you see them bickering, you see how much they care for each other, and yet again you see the differences between them that you were saying, like, I'm not sure if they'd ever be able to overcome to like fully be quote unquote together.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the like ship talk, like you kind of end up getting into slightly more like depressing or like, you know, kind of like real topics, so to speak, which is like, you know, nice, but also like, come on, man, I just want like a silly little discussion, but yeah.
Well, speaking of silly, don't judge me now, but shame-free zone. I don't hate like the Shaka Daniel dynamic. I think it's fun. The monster fucker in me is like, get it, Daniel.
Okay, that's.
But anyway.
I mean, I guess like okay. I'm like thinking about it. I don't hate it either. Which is oh my god. Yeah.
I respect that, honestly. I don't ship it, but I respect it.
I'm just throwing it out there.
Live your truth.
That's fun. I mean, that just wow. I love that. I mean, I love it for Daniel. I want him to have good dynamics with aliens. Because some of them treated him horribly, so I kind of see that. Maybe he has one good relationship with Chaka.
Yeah.
It's an enduring friendship.
Oh my god, yeah. And there's like the whole like language barrier thing. I don't know. I'm like really. This is gonna sound so weird, but I'm really into like reading these like all, like semi like bodice ripper stuff. Like not really, but that has like the language barrier, and they have to try to like, you know, like communicate beyond language, kind of. And oh my god, I'm just like exposing myself here. But they. But it's like, you know, they're able to kind of communicate, and, you know, Daniel kind of, you know, learns the Unas language, and it's like, yeah, they have. I had never thought of that before now, so this is I'm giving it some thought. I don't think I would ever like write or like read fic for that, to be completely honest, but it's not, you know, it's definitely there.
Yeah, it's just wow. It's just wow. I mean, it's good. Yeah. No, it's fun. It's fun. I think we at Jumping Puddles endorse monster fuckers. Yeah, we do. We proudly. You do you, babes.
Yeah. I wish there had been sort of more like alien fuckers on Stargate. They're like very few, and even when they do get sort of with like non-humans from Earth, it's like they're still human. You know, like Taylor, Sharae, Vala. It's like they're all human. It's like, come on, be spicy. Like I want to see, I don't know, Thor. You know?
Yeah.
What's
I have questions. But yeah, that would be interesting. Also, what about Teal'c? Is Teal'c considered? I mean, he's Jafar. Is he?
Yeah. I guess I think that like Teal'c with the Primta to me is like more alien than Teal'c when he's like on Tritonin and is like doesn't need to like, you know, do that stuff anymore. I really like Teal'c in the early seasons. I love Teal'c. He's definitely, I love him. I know I'm lesbians for Daniel Jackson, but Teal'c is definitely Teal'c is a close second.
Yeah.
Well, we have to brag about Ty's achievement. When you were lesbians for Jonas Quinn.
Oh yeah, I got noticed by yeah. It was really weird. Yeah, I thought he was like interacting with people, and I had like liked one of his tweets, and I was like, oh, I'll just like change my, you know, display name from Lesbians for Daniel Jackson to Lesbians for Jonas Quinn. Like, you know, he's important to me. I really need to rewatch season 6. I thought Jonas was such a cute guy. You know, he was just like nice. But yeah, and so then the actor, his name is Corinne Nemec, right? I'm like really bad with remembering it. But yeah, he like he like replied to one of my tweets or something while I had my display name as lesbians for Jonas Quinn. So yeah.
Iconic. And actually, since we're on the topic, I know actually a decent amount of people that ship Jonas Quinn and Daniel.
I can see that.
I totally can see that. When I was thinking of ships and relationships in general involving Daniel, it didn't come up earlier, but just now that we're talking about him, I was like, Daniel and Jonas, yes, I see it. I probably ship it somewhere in my mind. I'm a multi-shipper, so it's out there definitely. And I'm so sad that we got so little interaction between them. But that's, I mean, it makes sense because Jonas was Daniel's replacement for one season. But yeah, I'm just sad how they wrote Jonas off the show and they got him back once, but not more. And I love to see him interact with Daniel a lot more because I think they are very different, but they are also kind of similar, and they are both so interested in so many things. They want to learn and info dump, and I think it could be really, really cute, these two together.
I definitely agree. I do agree with. I wish we had seen more Jonas and Daniel interactions, because I think they were like we were talking about, like Jack and Daniel sort of have, you know, fundamental, like these very, you know, kind of like a trench between them morally, kind of, and like it would be hard to resolve those. But I think like with Jonas, like no, they just be vibing. So
yeah.
Daniel Sam, and then thoughts on Daniel Sam Jack.
Oh hell!
We're getting a visceral reaction from Ash to this question.
Ash almost cried.
Okay. Oh my god. I don't know why, but Sam, Daniel, Jack I think it has never even occurred to me. I don't know. I'm trying to sort out my feelings and my thoughts right now. Ship it. I think because I ship Sam Jack, and I see Sam Daniel more as siblings, like signed siblings, and I love their dynamic like that. And so I know that people ship them, and like with most ships, I'm trying to see where the people are coming from, even if I don't agree, but yeah, for me, I love their relationship. I have a really good relationship, and I'm kind of mad that Daniel didn't visit Sam while he was ascended in whatever setting. But yeah, so Jack Daniel is a no-go for me. And Sam Daniel is more like, I like their relationship.
Okay. Sam, Jack Daniel, not my thing, you know, whatever. Kind of basically for the reasons that Ash said. And then Sam, Daniel. So I kind of view Sam and Daniel as like they're both bisexual. And I think they're like at their gayest when they interact. So I feel like it's like you know, they're going in different directions. I was just thinking of that one episode. I think it's like in season 8, where like because of like this ancient thing, they both like become invisible, and it's like they're like banter in that episode is like so good, and it's just so peak, like, you know, like lesbian gay like solidarity, but you know, not lesbian, but you know, just for the sake of the, you know, phrase. But I think, yeah, so I don't ship them because I see them as like, you know, bisexual besties.
That we gotta start calling them that, bisexual besties.
So that's so true. And I love the way you put that, because it just hits the nail on the head exactly why I just don't think it would work for me personally. But as a friendship, I think it's so great, and I kind of wish, like you said, Ash, that it was acknowledged in a big way when Daniel was ascended. I always come back to the one episode, in Singularity. Their friendship was so good. Like, just like opening the channels of communication between them, like knowing it's hard for her to open up considering her position and like all the stuff that she was going through, and them like watching Cassie together, like just the platonic soulmate-ness of it all was just very, very nice. I love that episode for them.
Hard agree. And I think, well, we didn't really, I'm surprised that we didn't talk about this, but it just makes me sad that like later seasons, I feel like they don't do a great job at like highlighting the dynamics they set on early on. Because Daniel and Sam are so cute in like season 1. Like they're like, they're like the youngest members, like they're the ones that are like running around, and Sam is the one who's like, Daniel, are you okay? Like they really care about each other. And it just sucks that, I think I said it before, I think it was either season 4 or 5, they just completely dropped the ball on all that stuff. They were like, fun dynamics, we don't know her, until Vala and Cam came in and kind of reset the show back to, oh hey, we should like give these little moments. So I wish, like, I love Daniel and Sam, platonic soulmates, are you kidding me? But I just wish they had more moments, because you get a few early on, you get some in the later seasons. I feel like you miss a bunch in the middle. And why TF didn't Daniel go visit her when he was ascended?
Right, yeah. Misogyny.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I had to throw out the Daniel, Sam, Jack, just because that was something I did not know was super popular, and then they popped up at Fic one time, and I was like, jump scare.
Oh no.
But it's kind of a little bit of a tangent, but I feel like it kind of goes into like, there's a lot of people who ship like, OT4, so like Teal, Daniel, Sam, Jack, whatever. And same on Atlantis, so they ship like Taylor Ronan, Rodney, John. I don't forget everyone's names. But anyways, I feel like I wish I could be one of those people that like jumps in so wholeheartedly and is like, yeah, I'll ship all 4. But I always have a problem with at least one of the dynamics. I feel like I have more issues with SG1's dynamic, but like the biggest ones for me is like the Daniel, Sam, and like Taylor, Ronan, because it like I just see them so like as besties, but like it drives me like I just can't break that barrier to ship like OT4. But I know like OT4 is super popular for both fandoms, I think. Maybe Atlantis a little more. But yeah, sad.
Funny that you mentioned that, because actually, I mean, I don't actively ship them, but when I think about it, it's not that bad. If that makes sense. It's like, yeah, why not?
Oh, that's valid. That's so valid. It's just it's like those little things, and I'm like, I'm almost there, guys. I'm almost there, but I can't crack that barrier.
Oh, did I mention in SG1, not Atlantis? No. So I ship OT4 in SG1 and not in Atlantis for various reasons.
Yeah, for me, it's weird. Like, something like Torchwood, I understand. Because I just feel like it makes more sense. Where they have, like, romantic friendships, almost. Stargate, it doesn't... I don't know. I can't get behind it.
Have, like, any thoughts about... It's, like, to me, like, the OT4 is, like, it's simply as, like, a found family dynamic, not as, like, an actual, like, ship. So... that's sort of where I come down on that.
But anyways, Daniel Shore.
I just feel like, why not just like poly ship them? Like Daniel, Sharae, Vala. Like, I think that's the, again, I think this comes down to, I want to see Daniel in lesbian ships. So
I can get behind that wholeheartedly, because I think Vala and Sharae would be such a great match together. Like, not even adding Daniel into the mix. Like, well, he's on the sidelines for right now. But like, oh my gosh, like the reason why Daniel and Vala are such a good ship in the first place too is that like Vala can relate to a lot of things that has either like happened to Daniel or Sharae. And I just feel like, again, when you exclude the Daniel part, like I feel like they have such a deep connection. And I think Sharae could get Vala on such a deeper level that no one else really could ever.
Yeah, I mean,
think
they were both hosts to a like it literally. Oh my god! Like Sharae, Vala, absolute
New ship
like
just dropped.
galaxy brain.
Hell yes. All the rights.
Oh my god!
Yeah, I think. Oh my gosh, I could just imagine like this is it's a little bit of a tangent, but like like I think Shara would be so welcoming to Vala if she came on the vase, and I think she would really like understand like Vala's sort of like attempts to fit in that the others honestly make fun of all the time, which is something we'll get to in Vala's episode because it's really mean, honestly. Even Sam is honestly really mean to Vala, and it's really sad because like women support women, but fuck nah, I guess. But so I think Sharae would really understand and like see Vala's attempts and be like, hey, you don't have to try so hard, it'll come eventually. And I think she would, I don't see her ever like making fun of Vala or like like putting her down and being like, oh well, like this is something for the SG1 members to do. You know, I don't know, it just makes me really sad that they didn't meet, because I think they would have been a great ship on their own, and then when you add Daniel, it's just like, wow, this is so good right now.
Yeah. I was also surprised that like there are so few people that ship like Daniel and Vala. It feels like such like an obvious ship almost. It's like it's fucking Claudia Black. Like, are you kidding?
I know, right?
I know that people then like ship like Cam and Vala, and I think it's like I like their dynamic, but I think I like it more as like platonic between the two of them. But I don't know. What do you guys think about Cam Daniel? Because that one comes up. I have sort of similar thoughts as like Jack Daniel, but Cam is like I think a little bit less like stuck in kind of the military hierarchy as wait, I mean Cam is less stuck in the hierarchy than Jack is. So it's like that ship I feel like I can see a little bit more than Jack Daniel, but I don't know.
Yeah, I was
go.
Yeah, totally. I totally see what you mean. They're more equal. I mean, we talked about this on the podcast before, but Cam's leadership style is a little more like, I don't want to say loosey-goosey, but he's not so much of the authoritative figure, or it's my way or no way, that I feel like Jack sort of represents a little bit. I think sometimes he tries to assert his authority, and the rest of the team are like, no. Like, we've got this. So, yeah, and I just think their personalities are different on a fundamental level. Like, I feel like Cam is a lot more nerdy, masking, like, he masks that with, like, the Air Force persona, but, he's off Squishy Center. That makes sense. So, yeah, I definitely think it would work better between those two.
No thoughts on them, honestly. I think, I mean, especially in the beginning, Cam is just a fanboy of SG1. That's the only thing I just came up with, but nothing against it, but I'm also not feeling it right now.
Well, yeah, no, I definitely agree with what Tora and Ty said. Like, I definitely see it more. However, what I do see is Daniel Wallach-Cam.
Yes.
Interesting. Definitely interesting.
I don't know if I could really, oh, man, it's hard to like kind of like say which one I prefer for like SG1 like OT3 because I love Daniel Sharivala, but on the upside is that we actually got to see Daniel Wallach-Cam interact. But I don't know, so they're kind of like on the same playing field for me, but I think I really discovered a good love for Daniel Wallach-Cam just because I think like bisexual Daniel Walla running around the base and like chasing after straight Cam Mitchell. And then Cam Mitchell just being like, oh wait, I am in love. And I just think it'd be so cute. He would take them to meet his family in his little farm in Kansas.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of get, like, not really, but kind of get a sort of a scene between the three of them when in season 10, like, Vala comes back. And she's like in Daniel's body, and like she comes into the like locker room, and Cam is like, "What are you doing, Daniel?" And Vala in Daniel's body is like, essentially kind of like posing a little bit suggestively against the door frame or something, and it's like, okay.
No, right? What was I getting? Oh, right. Okay, so I was getting some clips for Vala Cute that I had kind of left behind, and so I was kind of rewatching it recently. But there's like a lot of little moments. Like there's one that I freaking love. It's in it's one of the episode 5 or 6 or 4. 4. The Ties That Bind, I think. I don't know, season 9. It's that when they send Vala goes on that whole mission try to get back that necklace so she can get like the key to unlocking the bracelets. Okay, there's that one scene where she drops off the ship that she like got for this guy. And he's like, "Oh yeah, like thanks for not checking the secret compartment." And she's like, "Secret compartment? What?" And like Daniel and Cam drag her out, and she's just in the middle of them, and they just drag her out. It's so cute. I was like, wait a damn minute here. And there's that. Sorry, I know I'm going on a rant about that, but there's that other scene. First or second episode of season 9. So like she literally Vala just got there, and her and Cam are already besties. Like Daniel walks out the door, and Cam's like, "You're trying too hard," and she's like, "You're one to talk," and like they just link arms and walk out the door, and it's like, good. This is, yeah. So I have a new soft spot, I think, recently because for Daniel Wallach-Cam.
They're good for him, where he's at in his life at that time too, because I feel like they're so full of life. Like they're really excited about the Stargate program and like the good that they could do, where Daniel is kind of jaded at that point. So I feel like it's a good uplifter for him to be around people who like still believe in what they're all doing in a way, or are just there to have a good time. Like,
going back a few seasons, I just want to bring up Daniel Janet because I kind of ship them. Also more passively, I think, but I think they're really cute, and they have a few scenes. I think also when it's about Cassandra, what's the episode? I think it's Rite of Passage, where teenage Cassandra is going through a whole thing, and Janet is very concerned, and Daniel tries to comfort her. I think this is what sparked this whole thing for me, because they also hold hands for a bit, and it's very cute in my opinion. And also apparently the actors kind of shipped it. So.
oh,
yeah.
Oh.
They tried to make it a thing, and then Janet was killed off. I mean, she lived happily ever after.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about Daniel Janet. I don't know, because I think sometimes like I can see why people would think it's romantic, because again, like that scene of them holding hands, like it's just iconic. But I think think I just have like a little thing against them because I see most people like preferring to ship Daniel and Janet over Daniel and Bala, and I'm just like, it cuts me a little inside. And also I think because like I don't know, because of like we didn't really talk about like Daniel's whole like family kind of, you know, he has a really strange and very underdeveloped family dynamic that leaves us all scratching our heads. And so sometimes I kind of feel that like Daniel or Janet is more of like a surrogate mom because he never really had one. I don't know if he had, I mean, yeah, like, I mean, he might have had like a foster mom.
We don't know. We don't know.
We don't know anything about all his time because they mentioned it like once. Oh yeah, he was in a foster home till he was 18, and you're just like, what?
Yeah. Oh my God. Daniel's history is just like, I mean, we learn in Gamekeeper that his parents were crushed to death by a museum exhibit. Like a horrible way to die, but so hilarious, actually.
It's my favorite thing ever.
Room, so he was traumatized pretty early on.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, it's horrible and everything, but I still think it's absolutely fucking hilarious that they were crushed to death by a museum. It's like, you know, it's funny and sort of like one of those like kind of like this is ridiculous, this doesn't happen kind of thing. I'm just like, nobody gets killed by a museum exhibit. Come on, guys. And then Daniel like saw that happen. He was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be an archaeologist anyway. Like the thing that killed my parents, I'm gonna do it anyway. Like the uncle like didn't want to raise him and was just like, whatever, you go to foster care, which is like, what the fuck? Or not his uncle, his grandfather. I don't remember what the relationship was. It was I can't remember which episode it was. It's the one with the crystal skull.
Yeah. I think it's his grandpa, skull. Which is honestly even worse that it's his grandpa.
And he wants to be called Uncle Nick, is it right? So, wasn't that something? I think it was mentioned or something. So but yeah, he's his grandfather, but he didn't want. Yeah, he wanted nothing to do with him.
Yeah. Which is definitely like goes into the whole like Daniel is incredibly traumatized thing. You know, like he saw his parents die at a young age. He was then sent to foster care despite having, you know, family members who could take him in who just like didn't want to, which is just like, how do you get over that? I mean, like psychologically, like your family members were like, actually, no, fuck you, kid. You're going to foster care, which is like itself very, I think, you know, not a fun experience. And then, you know, he goes through college, whatever, he gets his PhD, and then he's just like mocked by the archaeological community for good reason, but still, like, he's just like a loser at every turn.
We didn't talk about Hathor because but Hathor happens, okay, and then not even this full season later Need happens where he is again like but like and then, you know, then he gets also Legacy, he gets thrown in a freaking mental institution because they thought he was crazy.
Oh yeah.
And they let him out and they're like, oh, you're fine now. They're like, all right, you're good. They never bring him up again. They just threw Daniel out.
Yeah. Also Lifeboat, when he has like a dozen different personalities in his head.
He goes through some really terrible shit, and it's just kind of like never brought up. But yeah, the parents dying thing, the way they died is funny. Like, it's just so ridiculous. Like, how did the writers were like, oh yeah, this is great, this is perfect, they get crushed to death by a museum exhibit, like
is it supposed to be poetic? Like, is it narratively trying to tell us something, or were they just being funny? Like, I don't even know. The thing that gets me is like, I guess blame early, it's the 90s, so, but I'm pretty sure his grandfather was committed to an institution as well. They thought he was crazy because he spoke to the aliens in the crystal skull or something or other. And even Daniel didn't believe him. And I think people, like, calling Daniel crazy might be a sort of something scary for him, something like a little bit like, what if it's a genetic thing sort of thing, if that was in his history, as well as, like, at the end of the episode, I'm pretty sure his grandfather chooses to, like, live with the aliens instead of coming back to Earth.
Yeah.
So again, he's not chosen by his family, which is horrible. And I feel so bad for him.
God.
Yeah, he has had some really just shitty luck. And then in oh my god, what is the episode in season 10 where is it an episode or is it the movie? What are the two movies called? I can't remember. For SG-1.
Arc of Truth and Continuum.
Oh, okay, yeah. In Continuum, he's like the only guy who, like, he's the only one who gets, like, seriously injured. Like, they have to amputate his leg.
Holy shit.
Like, he just, like, he's, you know, at every turn when something bad could happen, it just happens. And, like, really. Yeah. The whole show is just, like, Daniel Wump the whole time. Like...
He invent the genre? Like, wasn't the term coined because of Daniel?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I recently learned that. That's
Literally.
amazing.
Yeah, okay.
Not amazing, but it's funny.
Yeah.
That is so... Oh my god. That is so sad. Okay, we're back to the sad again.
Oh, no.
Oops.
This is like such a serious podcast. I can't remember the last time we did such a serious one. But okay, let's talk about things we love. We've been kind of dragging him through the dirt. Let's talk about his good qualities.
Silence.
Complete silence.
I know, like it's we're like, what does he have again? Like,
I'm kind of jealous of his language skills. He speaks like 23, 27, and which is insane. I don't know. I think it's so I speak two languages, obviously, but I mean, I think it's very cool when people speak 3 or 5 languages. Like 5 is insane to me, and there are, I think, a bunch of people who speak 5 languages. Elizabeth Weir. But then there's Daniel who speaks more than 20 languages. Like, how the fuck does that happen? How?
Right. Like, he's really smart. He's really, really smart, which is, you know... I also really like how, you know, he does try to be, you know, compassionate, even in situations where his life is kind of in danger. Like, we were talking about, like, Chaka and, like, the replicator girl, where he's still kind of, like, trying to, you know, get the situation to be resolved in, you know, the least violent way possible, even if he's kind of, you know, under duress or whatever. And I think that's, like, really cool, and I can, like, really commend that kind of behavior of, like, no, let's not, you know, go in guns blazing. Let's try to, like, you know, connect with these people, or even if they're not really, like, people, they're aliens. But yeah, I think he has, you know, just like a sweet spot. You know, he can be very sweet. He can also be a jackass, but he can be very sweet.
Both were.
Exactly. And I love that you brought up his selflessness, because I feel like the penultimate example of that is in Meridian, where he, you know, he's having that conversation with Jack, and Jack's like, oh, like, we can find some way to help you. Like, we'll go to some planet and see if we can find some sort of medical device. And Daniel's like, no, like, you need to treat me like I'm anybody on Earth or like anybody on the base. Like, I don't want special treatment. I don't want you guys to like go and risk your lives for me when there might be like no hope of me surviving. So he was literally facing down the barrel of his mortality at that point, and it was like, no, don't worry about me. Like, it's fine. If this is my time, it's my time. Which is just, he's very noble in that regard. He didn't want them to go back and like seek retribution on Jonas's people for the accident. I say in quotation marks. So yeah, it's definitely a very compelling quality in him. About him being smart, I kind of like that it's understated, and it's almost his foil in a way. Like that one episode where they're talking in Russian to him, and he speaks back, and then they automatically think like he's a spy because
Oh yeah.
because he can speak, but it's just like innate, like he wasn't thinking about it. So I just love that those little moments are really great.
Too smart for his own good.
Yeah.
Question, and I probably don't want to know the answer, but I think it's also in 1969 when they go back in time and they have this Russian thing, and they go to visit Catherine, and he has like a German accent, or he tries to be like German, and for me, it's a very bad accent, and I just want to know, do I sound like him? And you can't be serious, but I'm really curious.
To be fair, I don't really remember what he sounds like in the episode. I can look it up. Just give me a sec. If you want like your burning questions, let me see.
Yeah. I was definitely like putting it on very much to be like, oh, I'm, super German and everything. So he was really like doing the most, being very extra, which I like. Sometimes he's like kind of extra, and it's like, yeah, slay.
You're good. I really just forgot about that. That's horrible. I was gonna say though, I feel like I don't know if I necessarily love. I feel like to draw the parallels to like Spencer Reed, from Criminal Minds.
Oh yeah.
When they try to make like the genius people like speak all these languages, but then like they'll try to make him like speak like he spoke one time in Korean, and I was like, please don't ever do that again. It was so scary. So it's just kind of funny to me when they're like, these geniuses can speak 20 languages, and you hear them and it's like the scariest, worst accent you've ever heard in your life.
It's like, okay, this is a bit of a tangent, and we can cut this, but it's like the cigarette smoking man in X-Files. He speaks German on a few occasions, and I cannot understand. Don't know what he's saying. I don't not understand him. Yeah, I do understand what Daniel is saying. Yeah.
Bare minimum. We'll take it. I was gonna say though, speaking of Spencer Reed and stuff, I get so mad, I get so annoyed that like that Stargate has completely fallen off. It has zero relevancy anymore in pop culture. It makes me sad because I just know these like Stan Twitter bitches would be eating him up. Like Daniel is the white boy of the month. He has been white boy of the month since 1997. Like he's like he'd be like he's literally in the same circle as like Spencer, Seth Cohen, Styles. Like he created that genre of men, and it's like he's not. Yeah, he's not known for it, and it makes me so mad.
No, I totally agree with that. I think like, yeah, a white boy of the month every month. So. Yeah.
Understandably so.
Oh, I love that.
feel about Daniel Jackson outfits?
But they're like, here's the thing: once the costume department got a hold of the 2000s fits, it was over for everyone. in every show, Atlantis, baby girl, but like his 90s fits, iconic, serves cunt. Like
him in the black turtleneck. Oh my god!
I think whoever put him in that, it's
1969 look. Yeah, but otherwise there are times, where he's sort of like wearing, I don't know, stuff, and I'm like, huh, what is that? What is in your closet, baby girl?
No, but it's like, who dressed him? It's like, babe, please. Like, no one was gonna tell him that. There is one.
I feel like it makes sense for him to have like really bad fashion sense if he's like, wearing, the uniform, whatever, most days, and then he just like at home has like random shit that he bought like 5 years ago and he hasn't thought about since. But I wish he dressed better.
Okay, so yeah, some of these 90s fits are okay. Let me send this picture right now. Like this one at the end of Singularity is so 90s, and yet I think it's really cute. Like he looks, it's serving. Look at him go! Look at him! Oh my god! Sorry to everyone. It's the red shirt one. If at the end of Singularity, there's like a quick 2-second scene of him and Cassie walking, and he's just in these tan pants and this red shirt, and it's so cute.
The slacks, oh my gosh.
On Teal'c with that. I love Teal'c and his hats.
Yes!
His hat collection.
That's probably one of my favorite hats of his, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another Stargate podcast, Stargatesing, that I listen to, and they have like a Teal'c hat show or something like that, and also collect like the hats that Teal'c wears.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's so
nice.
Fun.
His bucket hat, his archaeological bucket hat, the green one is cute.
Yeah. I love how he almost always like wears the bandana like tied around his head. Like that's, I think that's cute. It's like his little thing.
I mean, I love, like, I know later we mentioned that like we love how snarky he is in season 9 and 10. I wish they had kept that snarkiness, but with like the, maybe innocence is the wrong word to use, but like with the more in character Daniel of season 1, because I do love when he gets snarky in the later seasons. I'm like, yes, Daniel can be a little shit. Like,
yes.
I talked a lot about how, well, I shouldn't talk too much, but about how I think Continuum is like low-key. I consider that kind of his like end of his circle, his arc, because I think he's so funny in Continuum. He is so snarky, but I don't know if he's like as grumpy, or I don't remember him being as grumpy. So I like to think that he's, anyways though. But I know I love when he gets snarky, and especially there's that one episode in season 1 that when he's yelling at like one of the military guys, and he's like, "Well, how about human rights?" And it's, you go to the bare minimum, defend human rights or defend rights in general. I'm like, oh my god, he's the only one there doing the bare minimum, defending anyone's rights.
Yeah, I definitely love his sort of snarkiness. Like when he's sort of willing to sort of like talk back, especially to the military and whatever. It's like, yes, go do that.
Honestly, his hottest moments are when he is yelling at them.
Those scene, I think they happen a few times when he's trying to convince someone of his cause or something, mostly I think General Hammond, and he keeps talking and bringing up arguments, and at some point the person in charge just says okay, but he keeps talking because he doesn't realize that he's won, and then he kind of doubles back and like what
Yeah.
I love this moment.
Kind of just like, he gets all wound up and then he just like goes off, and it's like, okay, you got what you wanted. You can. Yeah.
Fun to little meow meowify his early season self.
Yeah.
So freaking cute.
Little meow meow.
I love his PowerPoints and his laser pointer. Like, these are my special interests.
Oh.
Like, this is why you should care too.
Yeah.
His wallpaper or screensaver on his computer, the little Egyptian thingy. It's he's such a dork.
Yeah. Yeah. He is such a dork. I love him. In Fire and Water, we learned that he like keeps journals. You know, he has like a diary essentially. And like, you know, Sam kind of is going through it and Jack is like, oh, you know, that's his diary, don't do that. And it's like so cute. Also, I'm glad that we kind of got to saw like to see the inside of his apartment. It was like, you know, he had stuff on the walls and stuff. It wasn't just, you know, a depressing like bachelor pad or whatever.
He has a fish tank.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is he? Yeah, he's a cat person, right? You think he's a cat person?
Cat person, mostly because I'm a cat person and I'm projecting.
Well, I'm just gonna say he's a fish person.
Yeah.
He's not a dog person for sure.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm not sure if he's a cat person. So
I feel like he'd be like catfish. I feel like he'd also be a turtle guy.
Yeah,
see what it's
turtles.
Oh yes. Oh, like Carson.
Yeah, I feel like he could get behind a reptile.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, like a nice little iguana.
Cute.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, when is it gonna be a dragon? Daniel's like, what? You have dragon? All over the place, okay, but we didn't get to properly have a Daniel Vala conversation, so let's circle back to that.
Okay, let's get back. Yeah.
Oh yeah, when we edit it, we can just
go. Everyone go.
Love them. Big fan. That's essentially okay. Let me try to actually get some thought. I really like how they're kind of like playful. You know, they like they talk back to each other, and in that way, I think they're very, you know, kind of like on an equal playing field a little bit, where they're. It's like not, you know, one of them is not like scared of talking back to the other one. Like they can kind of, you know, say their shit and whatever. And yeah, I think Vala is just like so fun, and I think she also kind of brings in this sort of, you know, she's having fun. She's, you know, having a ball, whatever, on this bitch. And I think like, you know, that rubs off a little bit on Daniel, where, you know, we were kind of talking about how he gets frustrated and he kind of like loses his sense of like purpose a little bit. And I think, you know, I'm not saying like, oh, he finds his purpose again or whatever, but you know, I think it's like she causes enough problems for Daniel to solve that he's like busy with that.
I love that so much. Man, I just love them. And like it, oh my gosh, just in every way I feel like, but they're perfect for each other, okay? Like they just they balance each other like so well. And it just sucks that obviously like the writers, when I find your ass, boot to face, because like they really just had to like ruin some of it. Because I was gonna mention too, I feel like when you watch Prometheus Unbound, like the first Daniel Vala episode, they have such a different dynamic than they do in season 9. I feel like their dynamic is maybe closer to what happens in season 10, where I feel like Daniel is very much like, he's annoyed. I feel like he's not necessarily even annoyed with Vala. He's just more like confused at what she's doing. And then he does get a little grumpy. However, like he's so clearly into it. Are you kidding me? He makes out with her after she beats his ass. Like he is so
Yeah.
he's
having
so
fun.
into it. Yeah, like he is like so taken aback, but he like just kind of lets himself be down for the ride. I guess you could say. And so it kind of drives me crazy because I think they have such a good like every scene between them in Prometheus Unbound is so good. And you get to season 9. And I think that's the one where people have the most issues with how he kind of treats Vala in those first few episodes. Because yeah, it can be kind of hard to watch sometimes because he is being super mean to her sometimes. But they still have good banter and they still have some emotional moments. But there is kind of that like where I feel like he's just so grumpy and he's just so annoyed with her that it kind of dampens their dynamic a little bit. So I get why people don't ship them sometimes. But I also think ignoring all the bad shit in Stargate. Like, I really am. Like, you have to put up with so much bullshit for all 3 shows that, like, eventually, like, you just pick and choose what you like. You're like, I like this, and you're like, yeah, this is my Stargate show. Everything else is just kind of like just, shit you forget about. And so they're just one of the things.
That's me with like a universe and stuff. Like I'm just choosing to ignore that Rush and Young exist. Like when they come on screen, no, I don't see them.
Yeah. This is a long tangent.
Talked about it, but I feel like there are a lot of people who either really or who also absolutely hate him. And I think some of the reasons, a part of those that we mentioned earlier, that he's a military guy, he's more a pacifist, trying to talk to people instead of just running guns blazing. But I think one argument is also that they say that he has no reason to be on the show. Yeah, because operation and he's a civilian, he shouldn't be there. And yeah, I was maybe wondering what you guys think about that. Because I disagree.
Yeah, I mean, I also disagree. I think that it really comes down to one, he's part of the Stargate program kind of like since the beginning, and he's the one who's sort of able to translate things correctly. And he's the one who has all of this information, and kind of like one way or another, the US military was going to like need some sort of expert, with archaeology or like with ancient civilizations or something to be able to, kind of navigate the Stargate, world with the Gould and everything. And like, that's his whole point sort of for Daniel. I mean, like he's useful to the military, but also it's like he is, studying things that he's interested in and everything. But I think saying that he has like no point in the show, I feel like that's such a weird way of watching the show. Really just there for like the military sci-fi, which whatever, I guess.
Everybody's really scrunched up in pain. We were like, girl, for what? People watch it for the military?
Yeah, people watch it for like the military sci-fi aspect, which is like, I guess, why they don't like Daniel, because he's not the military dude and he's more the academic. But it's like he, serves, I think, a really important purpose on the team. Because like one, the military just wouldn't be able to sort of navigate like the Gould world and everything like without him. I guess they could have Teal'c, who is like to some extent, he does know a lot of stuff about the Gould world because he like, lives in it. And, sometimes Daniel does defer to his expertise. But, Daniel is sort of like really knowledgeable about a whole lot of different ancient human cultures. And he's also the linguist who's able to, learn all of these languages and everything. And so he's really, I think, very important for the team. And I mean, it's like we have civilians on other in other aspects of Stargate, like Rodney is a civilian, right? No one's going to say, oh, why the hell is Rodney in Atlantis? So
Well, people hate Rodney too.
okay. Damn.
I know. That's funny. That was a good example, though.
Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah.
I think we all disagree. We all disagree here at the Jumping Puddles podcast. We are Daniel enthusiasts. My whole thing about that is, I don't know, I think he plays such a necessary role in SG-1, like fundamentally necessary. You know, like Ty was saying, like, oh, like maybe Teal could have done it, but maybe not. Like, it's not like Teal was maybe super knowledgeable about all the other cultures. It's not like he could like translate, some ancient language he doesn't know into something that's like readable. Like Daniel is so valuable, even in season 9 when Vala she comes to Daniel and she's like, oh, I literally came because I found this like cipher that has like this hidden treasure. And he's like, okay, well, like, can't you read it? She's like, yeah, like I have the cipher, I can read it. She goes, but it's something different than understanding it. And it's like, Daniel's one of the only people who could understand some of this shit. Like, he's so necessary. And I think, honestly, it kind of pisses me off that people despise Daniel and say that, like, he's not necessary. Because especially, it robs all of us, honestly, of having, like, more anthropologists and more archaeologists and more history people in Stargate. Because, honestly, I'm always like, where's the history department in Universe in Atlantis?
Oh
like,
my god.
Atlantis.
And I also really like having Daniel in there, sort of, as you were saying, Sam, for those reasons, because I feel like a lot of sci-fi focuses a lot on like the sort of like engineers and physicists and stuff, and we get a lot of that in Atlantis and Universe, where sort of the other, sciences and, humanities and stuff, they're kind of like shunted off to the side as almost like they're only useful when they have to be. Otherwise, it's like, I mean, we had like Rodney trying to like be involved with the, Wraith retrovirus. And it's like, girl, what are you doing here? You're not a biologist. You think all of this is stupid. But so I really like having, Daniel, who's, represents kind of, a different kind of science, a different sort of field and, kind of, a different field of study with more humanities and stuff. I mean, technically, I think some people do consider archaeology to be like a science. It's kind of like one of those things where it's a little bit in the middle between humanities and science. And also, I think it robs us of a lot of the sort of more interesting, like, moral questions and ethical questions that are in Stargate, where, we have usually Daniel versus Jack, where they're, kind of having to debate how to best, go about a situation. And it's like, if we just had military, they would just all follow like Jack's orders, and like it wouldn't be, interesting. We wouldn't have that banter, but also we wouldn't have like the potential to, kind of show like, oh, hey, there are other ways of doing this.
Yes,
excellent. Thank you.
In looking at him in that light, I feel like Daniel is almost an eyepiece for the audience. Like, as a person myself, I cannot put myself in a military man's shoes and understand the world. So having Daniel as an accessible, more relatable character in what is typically a military sci-fi kind of helps me see things and understand better their world and what's going on, if that makes sense.
Totally.
100%. Oh, that was a great question to end on, I think.
Yeah.
All of our love for and appreciation for not only Daniel, but like the humanities came pouring out. So I know Ty already said it, but if you wanted to say it again, we could just each kind of say like our little ending comments. Just a nice little wrap it up with a bow.
So anyway, Daniel is very complicated. I, I'm going to start with like the things that I dislike a little bit to, in conclusion of this long essay. I mean, when I started off talking about the unfortunate role of archaeology and anthropology and like imperialism and stuff, and it's like this show like doesn't, kind of critique that very much, and Daniel very much is complicit in all of that, and like that sucks. But on the other hand, I think, or like in addition to that, I guess more than however, Daniel is fun, is very interested in these other cultures, and he does sort of present, like I was saying, these sort of, these moral and ethical questions into an otherwise like all military space that would, kind of do like a no questions asked, we're just following orders, shoot first, ask questions later kind of thing. And he, kind of forces this pause in there for everyone to, think and empathize with these different cultures that, they're meeting and everything. And, maybe some of that is not always done very well. But like I think the effort and like the thought is still there. And, that's one of the things that I really, really like about Daniel. Yeah. So a lesbian.
There you go. Perfect. Love the man a lot. Brings such a unique perspective to the show. One that was unfortunately, we never got again, which makes me so sad. But if there is a fourth show, laughs. I would love it. I would honestly love like a history main character. I think it'd be so. I have some ideas. I'll tell you after. But I think it'd be so fun to have a historian back in the forefront, and maybe actually seeing them, like raise the questions that Ty was saying that Daniel really didn't get to. Love him. Love Daniel Vala. A top ship for me. It's up there with McShap. They're so good. I love them. I love him, and I do hope we get to see him again. I wonder how he'd be in the fourth show. Oh my god. Maybe he's mellowed out by now. Maybe he's not as grumpy anymore.
I think so.
Yeah, it'd be so cute to see him with Vala. Him mellowed out now with Vala, happily married.
Cuties.
Yeah. All right, I'm done.
Gone to therapy.
Yeah, he went to therapy and now he's doing great. I need him to mention that as well. I need him to say, I went to therapy. I need verbal confirmation.
I guess what I like about Daniel also is that he brings a different perspective to the show. I like that he's a pacifist in the beginning, at least. I like that he's trying to talk. I like that he's trying to connect. I like his passion. He's so passionate about people, about his field of study, about history, about all that shit that I find interesting too. And I love that we see that. And again, how the fuck did you learn 23 languages?
What everybody said, reiterating, I love Daniel Jackson. He is a necessary part of the team and of the show. In many ways, I think, at least at the Genesis, he was the heart of the team, and kind of, in a way, the Stargate program in general. And I don't know, I just feel like is it weird just for exploring different cultures was so refreshing. And even in the later seasons when that kind of went away, I still felt that he was a compelling character for his entire journey. And yeah, Daniel good.
Oh, I love that. Okay, well, so thanks for listening. Thanks for hanging out today. And again, thank you to our very special guest star, Kai. Again, you can find their Twitter linked in the show notes if you would like to go check them out. This was fun. Thanks for hanging out with us today. And we'll see you next time for The Siege Part 1.
All right, you clowns, listen up. I don't often get a chance to say this, so savor it. Good work, boys and girls. Let's go home.